Have you heard the story of Raktabahu, the ruthless plunderer who set his sights on the sacred wealth of the Jagannath Temple? When his attempts failed, he dared to challenge the mighty sea of Kalinga, only to face a fate as dramatic as his ambition. Join Miss Preeta Rout, whose scholarly research uncovers the truth, blending history with scientific analysis to craft a gripping narrative. Over to you, Preeta.
Namaskar everyone. Dhanyavad Sunil Babu. Today's topic that we are presenting from Kalinga Itihas is a very interesting story from the Madala Panji, that is the historical annal kept in the Jagannath Mandira, the Sri Mandira of Puri. And this particular story is about an invader, about a marauder whose name was Raktabahu, and he had planned to come and destroy and plunder the Jagannath Mandira and take away the deities and do unimaginable atrocities on the people and the land. So the legend of Raktabahu, the story of Raktabahu as described in the Madala Panji, in itself is a very interesting and fantastical description. So reading that, you feel, a reader feels that a lot of it is too good to be true, or too, too unbelievable to be true. But let's know this story again. Let's read and listen to this story again today and look at it through a more modern perspective and try to understand if those things which happened and all these records that we have in our records like the Madala Panji, do they carry any truth in them, or most of them are just myths and from the imagination? So let's begin. Legend of Raktabahu, decoding the science, facts and logic hidden in the legend of this infamous Yavana invaders' attack on the Sri Kshetra. And in this story, we see what happens when Varuna Deva, the god of the oceans, unleashed his fury on the marauders who attacked his beloved Purushottama Kshetra. And why is Purushottama Kshetra beloved to Varuna? As Odiyas, we all know that Purushottam Kshetra is the Kshetra of Devi Lakshmi and her spouse Sri Jagannatha. And as you all know, God Varuna is supposed to be the father of Devi Lakshmi. So when an imminent attack or an imminent threat happened to Sri Kshetra, how Varuna unleashed all his fury and avenged the attacker and avenged his daughter and son-in-law's attacker. So what happened? And before going into all that, I think most of you who will be listening to this talk, you all know about Sri Kshetra, as known as Purushottam Kshetra or Puri, being the abode of Sri Jagannath. This place is considered to be the zenith in spiritual wealth because it's the abode of Devi Lakshmi, Jagannath, Balabhadra, Subhadra, and it is also considered to be one of the zenith in economic wealth, in riches, because of his vast treasury and wealth. The Ratna Bhandara of Sri Jagannath is like, even most of it is still not common knowledge to many. And this had been like a lure to many of the plunderers who basically wanted to come and take away the wealth of this temple city and these deities. So this is one of the most revered seats of religion, culture, spiritualism, philosophy. So far and wide, the fame and the glory of Sri Jagannath had spread since centuries, since millennia. So Sri Jagannath is not just the soul of Odisha, not just the deity of Odiyas, but far away from Odisha also, all across the greater Indian subcontinent, the name, fame and the respect for Jagannath had been present, as long as time goes back. And we see from the descriptions in the Madala Panji that because of these type of glories, it although it attracted spiritual minds and religious minds to its to itself, like people came and visited Sri Kshetra for the spiritualism, for the darshan of their beloved deity. At the same time, it was also a very, very big magnet to attackers, invaders, plunderers, thieves who just wanted to come and snatch away the wealth. And many of you would know, and if some of you don't know, I would just like to highlight here that our beloved Jagannath Temple, the Sri Mandira, has had to suffer plunderings 18 times in its history, at least recorded 18 times. And most of it, like 17 times out of all these 18 times, is in more recent history, which is between 14th and 18th centuries in the Common Era, that is 600 years ago, like 300 to 600 years ago time. But one particular plundering, one particular attack which happened, that is mentioned in the Madala Panji, is the basis of our story today. This is the very first attack on Jagannath Temple that has been recorded in the Madala Panji. And this attack is none other than the very infamous and the very mysterious invader whose name is Raktabahu. Why I say mysterious? Because a lot of his identity is still shrouded in not secrecy, I would say, but mystery, because his real identity is still not deciphered completely, like who exactly was this marauder. So whatever we know from the account, that the way it is described in the Madala Panji, but historical records of who exactly that person was, from the person's point of view, we don't have much records. So our narrative will be from the Madala Panji perspective. So according to the description in the Madala Panji, there was once a very arrogant and ruthless Yavana. And as many of you would know, or most of you would know, that Yavana, or in Odia we call Jabana, is another word for a foreigner. So long back in India's history, the Ionian Greeks were considered to be the Yavanas. And later on, with the advent of the Turko-Afghan Muslim invaders, the word Yavans or Javanas became more so for the Muslim attackers. And later on, any foreigner also was ascribed as a Jabana. Now, the Madala Panji talks about a Jabana who goes by the name Raktabahu. Now, here again, we don't know that Raktabahu is the name ascribed to this person from his homeland, or is it a name that is recorded from the perspective of the person who is writing the Madala Panji? Like, is it a name of a translation of that original name in Sanskrit or Odia as Raktabahu? Or is it some characteristic that his arm, because Raktabahu translates to being the red-armed one. So was he wearing something like an arm guard which was bright red in color, or he had reddish arms, or his name itself meant Raktabahu translated into Odia or Sanskrit? That portion again we are not clear. So let's just go by how the account goes. So the arrogant and ruthless Yavana invader named Raktabahu, he assembled a big group of ships, like warships and ships carrying large cargoes, so that he could transport horses, elephants, soldiers and mercenaries, so that he can bring all of them and attack Puri. Now, why did he do it through, why did he assemble all that and brought them in ships? Because he was a very wily and clever, person. He knew if he did it through the land route, then there were chances that his plan could be discovered and thwarted. So he wanted the element of surprise, so that he could attack the land of Puri and take the king and the people by surprise, so that his attack would be more successful. I almost find a parallel like how the Vikings used to plunder in the Atlantic, like that surprise element, stealth plunderings, what happened, or pirates, sometimes pirate ships come and attack stealthily. So this somehow feels to me as a like that stealth element, that secrecy of coming through the sea route to surprisingly attack is a mind of a very ruthless, careful, long thinking, and of course ambitious person. And his main aim was to come and plunder and take the wealth of Sri Mandira and subjugate the people as well as destroy the deities mainly. So that's why he did all this and he started his plan. So Raktabahu, he chose to launch his attack via the sea route, as I said. So when his ships and his all these sea vessels started coming, he didn't come all the way to Puri. In fact, before he reached Puri, he embarked. They lay anchor in a little distance away from Puri. So that exact place name is not given, but one of the nearby ports or nearby areas where anchor could be laid, Raktabahu and his soldiers, they came and they waited there first. So they thought that they'll surprisingly attack in another day or 2 days time. So when they came and lay anchor, that time the people of Puri initially didn't know like something like that is knocking on their door, like such a big danger is coming. But luckily for them, whoever their guardian angels were, or whoever the Mahaprabhu, we say that Mahaprabhu is the guardian, if Varuna is guarding Mahaprabhu's borders, like what is there to fear? So Swayam Mahaprabhu is there and Varuna Dev is at his gates, not gates like outside the gates in the ocean. So be it whatever the reason, that something happened, and the local people, they noticed something unusual in the beach, in the sea water which came to the beach. They saw that there was like floatisms of dung, of straw, and very unusual things that you would not find on the sea beach of Puri at that time. So people were surprised, especially there will be always like fishermen and other people who are near the beach, right, who have their daily livelihood in the sea. So many of them and common people, when they notice such unusual occurrences, that led them thinking like something is the matter, and maybe there is something big coming and we all have to be careful. So this concern reached the king. They made sure that the king knew about this. At the time, the king of Puri was Sohandev. And when he heard about such a thing happening, the common people talking about it, he, being a very prudent man, he knew that, okay, this is not something very common, and I cannot just ignore this. This is something catastrophic going to happen, like signs of danger, and I have to act as fast as possible. And here, if somebody is planning an attack, dung, straw, that means there are like elephants and horses in those ships. Must be ships, and ships carrying horses, elephants, and army. And that means the person who is taking this chance of bringing elephants, horses, and soldiers on ships, that person must be extremely well prepared and so ruthless and quite ambitious. So having all that preparation and almost near Puri, do I have enough time to assemble all my forces and go to war against this attacker, whoever this attacker is? And this attacker might be a foreign attacker. That chance was always there. So the king had to decide what he can do. Should he go and fight, or should he do something else? But always, always and always, the kings of Puri, the people of Odisha, their first their first thought is about Mahaprabhu, about Jagannath. Come what may, everyone is for sure going to take care of Jagannath and make sure that the deities Jagannath, Subhadra, Balabhadra, Malakshmi, they're all safe. So any imminent danger happening, first of all, always the gods are taken to a safe place. So in that case also, the king thought of this, and he asked the servitors at the Sri Mandira, the deities and other servitors, to gather everything that is of value in the temple, like the temple jewels, utensils and everything, and along with it all the deities, and put them in a covered cart. And with those group of people, the king, they went to the Dobandha ferry place in the Bhargavi river. So the Sri Jews were taken like that, covered in, hidden and covered in the wagon, and like maybe a bullock cart or such a cart or a wagon. And when they reached this ferry place at Bhargavi, from there, through the Bhargavi river, Kuakhai river, and then via the great Mahanadi river, the king and his companions, they took the deities to safety, to far away Sonpur or Subarnapur. Subarnapur Gopali, they reached and they kept the deities safe there. Why did they take them so far? Because this was one of the most farthest in the borders of the king's region that time. And they thought it would be very difficult for the foreign attackers to even comprehend that you could like cross so many rivers and forests and other challenging topography and take the deities to a safe place there. So the king thought that maybe this is a good idea, so they did that. So by the time the Yavanas landed in Puri, like they were taking a rest of 1 or 2 days. So when they finally landed in Puri after that, to their surprise, they found the temple empty. The king and the main people of Puri had already left. The wealth had gone. All the riches of the temple were gone. So when Raktabahu saw all this, he, being such an arrogant person and such an overconfident person, he was ready to go and do all the destruction possible. But when he came, as they say, the bird has flown already. How the saying goes, like that. When he saw that, he was so angry. He couldn't understand what has happened. Like, how can everything not go according to his plan? Where are the deities? Where is the king? Where are the main people? Where is the wealth? I didn't come all the way in the sea, all this planning to go to west. So he was like extremely perplexed, like what has happened? And although he caused a lot of destruction and everything, but he wanted answers. So he was torturing and doing a lot of injustice to the people there, and tried to find out the reason, tried to make them talk. After some people somehow managed to give him the answer, whoever were there. And when he came to know of the answer, he was even more enraged. He got so angry that the reason being the sea, the beach of the sea, the waters of the sea, carrying the dung and the straw from his ship with the waves, it comes to the beach, because of which the people got an inkling, and the king thought to to go away from Puri. That was totally unheard of for such a person, for Raktabahu. He couldn't accept that this could have happened. So he became even further angry, and he directed his anger on the sea. He thought, the sea has given up my secret. I came with so much secrecy. I did all these things, and the sea here, it gave away my secret. So he, with great anger, he drew out his sword and he rode out in anger, and he marched towards the sea so that he could chastise the waters. How dare you? How dare you give up my secret? And lo and behold, as soon as he did that, the sea actually retreated for nearly the distance of a kosa. Almost one kosa or a 2 miles distance, the sea retreated back. It looked like as if the sea is cowering down, and the sea is so scared because of the might of this Raktabahu, the famous, the famous warrior plunderer Raktabahu. Because of his anger and might, the sea is cowering and backing out. Looking at that happening, Raktabahu got even more overconfident. He thought that, okay, the sea is finally, cowering to me. It's bowing down. It's accepting defeat, that it has done injustice to me. So with that, he kept marching he kept going, like roaring with his sword drawn out and going on the sand, still ahead on just the sand that the sea had vacated. When that happened, as soon as few moments had passed, just within a few moments, the water returned with tremendous noise and fury. And that entire wall of water, it swallowed up a great portion of the Yavana army and inundated the whole region extensively. This sort of a thing was practically unheard of in those times. So they were most of the Yavana army was, engulfed by the sea water. Most of them perished, and most of the land was also under the sea water. It is said that the sea water that gushed out into the land went as far as inland as the Borune hill in Khorda. So taking with it immense quantities of sand. So when the sea near the Puri, it went inwards, it reached almost till Borune hill. So that's almost 30 miles away from present-day Puri. So how far the devastation would have happened, imagine. So the Yavana army was nothing in compared to the sea at that time. So this itself looks like the entire description here, the way it is described, that Raktabahu drew out his sword, the sea covered, and it receded in fear, and then again it came back with all its fury and might, and it washed away everything. This itself looks like a very fantastical description, which feels like more of an imagination than a real happening. Here we also realize that how we have kept all our traditions of our beloved gods, kept with our, we have infused it with our stories here. As I told in the beginning, because sea god is Varuna couldn't see the Apaman or the insult of his or the destruction on his daughter's favorite abode. So because of that, he got angry and he inundated it. And because Raktabahu was overconfident, very arrogant, and he plundered, and he dared to destroy or come and plunder the very sacred place of Srikhetra. Because of that, he was punished. So these type of things are always there in our stories, in our traditional stories. We will examine this happening in just a little while, but before that, are you curious to know what happened to the deities, what happened to the king? Let's see that portion. So they, as we know, they had already reached Subarnapur or Sonpur, and so do you think the deities could be kept safe because they were so far? Yes, they were kept safe there by the king and his companions and the servitors of the deities. But at the same time, even decades passed, and the king could hear the continuous atrocities of the Yavanas, who had already taken over the land and were ruling there. And he could hear in between about the atrocities happening by the Yavana forces. So, listening to all that, King Sobhanadev knew that the danger is not yet over. Although it is averted, but it's not yet over. Any time, any inkling of about such a secret destination might reach the Yavana, the rulers, they will come and find our deities and take away everything. So everything will be lost. All this work of ours will go in vain. So what he decided, it must have been a very very crucial and heavy-hearted decision, of course, because something like this again was very rare to be done. He decided that let's take the deities and bury them in the ground so that the Yavanas won't come and find them. So they buried the images of the deities in the ground, and on top of it the king planted a boragacha sapling, the banyan tree sapling, which was named as the Diyan Bora. The local people later on always considered it as the Diyan Bora and used to offer water and offer prayers and do the puja for the Diyan Bora. Slowly, in the few following decades, many people forgot about, partially forgot about the happenings of decades ago, but still they knew the reverence that Diyambara means something our ancestors were worshipping here. So there came a time, almost a century into the happening that occurred here, almost 99 or 100 years after that, Jajati Kesari, he became the king of Odisha. And by that time, the Yavanas were already driven away. Odisha was again slowly getting back to her feet, and her former glory was slowly getting reinstated. And this very able king of the land, King Jajati Kesari I of the Somavanshi dynasties, he came and that's another story. I'll just be quite quick about it. He came and he found the deities buried under the Boragacha, Diyambara, and he brought them out and performed the Nabakalebara, reconstructed the temple back in Puri, and then reinstated the deities back there. So Jajati Kesari, as we know from our historical annals, he was from the 10th century period. So this event must have happened around more than a millennium ago. So now our story is done. Mo kathati sarila, pulagachati marila, as they say. Kathati sarila, my story is done. But here now comes our main thing about our discussion today. So is such an account only a myth or a fantasy? Or could it have been based on actual happenings? And what are we talking about here? The sea retreats back in fear for miles, scared of Raktabahu's power, but rushes back within moments with all its fury. So this seems to be very fantastic happening to have happened in real life. Hence, till now, many of them consider this as a myth or legend or something, just a story. But let's contemplate, retrospect, and analyze. Now we have scientific minds. We live in the modern world. So why not use the tools and the resources of the modern world and our own experiences and thoughts to analyze if such things could happen? So I think you must have heard about this word, tsunamis, most of you. Yes, Varuna's wrath is legendary, and it is scientifically true in our story case. So although it is Varuna's wrath, Varuna's anger, but that anger may have manifested as a tsunami. Now why I say? Again, many of you know that a tsunami is a series of water waves generated by any large displacement of the sea surface. That large displacement could occur because of an underwater earthquake or an underwater sea floor landslides or a meteorite impact, or so many other man-made disasters also. So anything that causes a large displacement of the ocean surface can lead to a tsunami in the coast. So tsunamis can travel very fast. Like when they are in deep sea, the waves are smaller, the speed is very high, but by the time they come to the shallow waters, the wave lengths become higher, the speed gets lower, and depending on the shallowness and the way the land is near the beach or the coast, if uh, the way the seabed and the land is very steep or like a gentle upward movement, depending on that, the type of waves come as like a big tidal wave type of form, or like a big mountain of water which can be multiple stories high. And tsunamis have been documented to travel as far as 16 kilometers inland. Like at least in the modern day documentation, such tsunamis have happened depending on the shape and the slope of the shoreline. And I was just telling you about this, like how the tsunami waves happen or travel. So when they make contact with the shore, they can severely alter the coastal landscape. They can inundate the landscape, take sand and other debris into it, and there is erosion, there is deposition of sediment. A lot of things happen, and overall these are catastrophic and very destructive sides of the nature. It causes a lot of destruction in resources, in life of human beings and livestock and other creatures, and it destroys the houses and other infrastructure around. So like we know that tsunamis are a natural occurrence, and in our modern day, lot of tsunamis have been recorded in the last 300-400 years. Especially in our recent memory, being from India, we remember the devastating tsunami of December 26, 2004. So who can forget that? So knowing the impact and the type of serious damage the tsunami can make, and what happens before a tsunami and after a tsunami. Many of you would have already heard about it or read about it, that before the tsunami actually hits, many times, most times, the sea actually retreats back. The sea moves back almost a mile or 2 miles. And then within a few moments, it comes back with full speed, and it can, flood the whole multiple storied buildings also, and go inward till 5 miles, 10 miles, depending on how the seriousness of the origin of the tsunami was. So I have taken a paper here which talks about the ages and relative sizes of pre-2004 tsunamis, mainly to understand the ancient tsunamis that had happened in the Bay of Bengal region, because our focus area is the tsunami that could have happened in the coast of Puri or the eastern coast of India, Kalinga coast and Coromandel coast. So looking at that, the researchers have found that during 2nd and 6th century AD, and also during 770 to 1040, that is 8th century to 11th century AD, there have been 2 recorded big tsunamis that have happened in this part of the Indian Ocean. So Raktabahu's tale, as you all heard me talking about Jajati Kesari being of the 10th century. So probably out of these 2, the 8th to 11th century tsunami which happened probably looks like maybe it had also some effect on the Puri coast. That is that is not recorded that it was in Puri, but it's just an observation from the way Madalapanji describes Raktabahu's incident and the dates of the tsunamis that had happened on this coast. So let's discuss about our story and what we understood from today's science and modern understanding. So the sea retreating for miles and then coming back, it can all happen in real-time event, occurs during a devastating tsunami. We do have geophysical data from the sediment studies and other littoral studies in all these coastal areas and islands of Andaman, Nicobar and other places. Then data also we have that there are 2nd to 6th century one big tsunami must have happened, and there was one more tsunami which happened during 8th to 11th century between that time period. And also we have data that tsunamis can travel inland up to 16 kilometers depending on the size, shape and slope of the shoreline. And this is just a recorded modern data, but depending on the intensity, origin and the type of slope it is encountering, it could even go more. So from our story's understanding, we realize that Raktabahu's story must have happened how it has been described in the Madalapanji. It indeed happened, and by sheer chance, at that time a tsunami was happening maybe, and maybe it was the 8th to 11th century time period, that particular whatever one time that tsunami would have happened, which coincided with Raktabahu's time, and maybe it was during 9th century, because by 10th century we know in 100 years King Jajati Kesari had gone and found the deities which were buried under the Diyambara. So maybe the 8th to 11th century, maybe the 9th century, that tsunami would have happened. And if you see the 9th or early 10th century, it's again a very probable date. We cannot pinpoint the exact time. Now, to give you two more corroborating evidences, it's like not from Odisha, but from India and from the same coast, eastern coast. It's just the next coast, like Kalinga coast, followed by Coromandel coast. In Coromandel coast, where the Tamils have a long, heritage of literature and historical records keeping, they have records of two devastating tsunamis. One is in their very famous Silapadikaram about the destruction of Pumpuhar or Kaviripatnam, as it is very famously known, which happened around 500 AD or 6th century. That matches with the Krakatoa explosion in the Sunda Strait. Then there is one more record of a tsunami, some tsunami type event happening in which hit Nagapattinam during 900 AD, and it destroyed a Buddhist monastery and killed hundreds of people. So such record from Tamil scriptures also give us corroborating evidence about tsunami type events happening in the eastern coast of India. So looking at all this, now if we go and think about the very interesting story of Raktabahu's invasion, Raktabahu's attack on Sriketra, and how he was punished by Varuna. It all looks very probable that it could have happened. And so the learning of this story, or the little learning we take away from today's little tale, is let's re-examine all our stories, our fables, our legends, our history with a new set of eyes, with a modern set of eyes, because now we have more resources and data to understand about what happened in the past. So maybe when Hunter or Sterling wrote about the Madalapanji accounts in their books or history of Odisha, they were perplexed that this cannot happen, this is something which cannot happen, so maybe this is an exaggeration by the part of Madalapanji. But I don't blame them, because they are people from 18th 19th century, and that time they had very limited understanding about such happenings in Indian Ocean area like tsunamis. So now, because we have more data, more understanding, and it is not just about the tsunami, it's about so many other things. So our learning is, let's re-examine our stories, our history, and look at them with a new set of eyes and try to understand what are the probable things that really happened in our hoary past and our glorious past. So with that, I conclude my story and talk today. I hope you all enjoyed this presentation from Kalinga Itihas team, and we look forward to your comments and any queries from you. We welcome them. So thank you everyone. Dhanyavad. Jai Jagannath.
Thank you, Preeta. You made a very, very intriguing story by connecting it to the Sangam literature and also some happening in Sundra state. So I hope next time when our own young people or whoever is watching this story, they come to listen any such legend or parable about ancient stories about our land, they would not simply brush it off as a story. They could delve
Yeah.
deeper and try to find out some truth in it. So thank you for this excellent narrative, Prita.
Thank you, Sunil Babu. And I would like to add one more line here for you all who are watching. We are hoping to reach more and more people, not just our fellow Odias, but other people who don't understand Odia or don't know about our Odia legends and history. We want our reach to get to them, even people outside India who have interest in our stories, especially people of Southeast Asia who share civilizational linkages with Kalinga. So, with that endeavor, it's our humble attempt to do this in English, this set of stories. But anything, any questions, or anybody would like to inquire anything in Odia, Hindi, English, everything is welcome. Our main purpose of doing these talks in English is to make our stories known to more number of people who don't understand Odia. Include Odia people understand English, but no, many people outside Odisha, they don't understand Odia. They can understand English. So that is
Right.
our humble attempt.
Right.
And I would urge everybody to go back to your roots, not just Odia people. Every person who is watching this, my humble request, go back to your roots, know about your legends, know about your stories, and find out about the connectivity, find out about the probability or the modern connections. And it's a magical world out there. I promise you, you will be very thrilled and excited to know more. So yeah, that's just my extra.
And such stories belong to humanity, not to any particular region actually. It is
Again,
the fact that we come to know of it, but then when we bring it to the social media, then this story belongs to whole of humanity, wherever a person lives. Thank you once
absolutely.
again, Prita.
Oh, dhanyawad.